everybody, and welcome back to the Next Level podcast with Dr. Leslie. I am your host. Oh my goodness, we've had an amazing season going so far. We have this mini series that I'm doing on wealth generation, financial freedom, anything about creating abundance in your life. It has been going so well. If you have not been following, please tune in to the last couple of episodes. We are rolling. We've got a couple more episodes coming your way, so please tune in. As all of you know that are listeners of mine for a long time, it's been like a year and a half I've been doing this podcast. You know that my podcast is all about you reaching your absolute highest potential, most authentic, most blissful, joyful, easy, graceful, all of the things. We want you to have the best of the best in your life and do it with the biohacks, the shortcuts, the practical, effective, efficient strategies so you can do it really as seamlessly and quickly as possible. I live this truth. My doctor of nursing practice helps me create the tools to give these to you guys, and this platform is all about just soaking you with the information that I bring through my guests, through my own research, my own nerdy, crazy experimentation, so you guys can just take it and run with it and implement it in the ways that you want to create your best life. So I'm really excited today because I have an amazing guest, Jeanette Schneider. She is a wealth advisor and entrepreneur of her own, and I really am excited to have her on the show because, as you all know, I'm talking about wealth generation, but she's a woman and I'm a woman, and she deals with women particularly who are, in debt or they want to get to the next level, who really want to become independent on a different level that may not be as maybe entrepreneurial as others or risk averse. We really want to, as women, be able to have it all, right? We want to have it all. And sometimes primitively, we've been very scared about being in the world. We've been at home, we've been homemakers, we've tended to the children, and we've relied on our spouses to provide, which was a traditional paradigm that doesn't really resonate with a lot of women anymore. They want to be able to take more control, feel safe, feel more comfortable, but they don't know how the fuck to do it, really. And so I wanted to do this wealth series because I'm at this point in my life where I want to expand my trajectory. I want to accelerate. I want to be able to really go to the moon and see what potential is out there. And I'm ready to take a little bit more risks, but I don't know where to start. I didn't know where to start to get to my next level. So we're doing this series so you all can learn with me and we can go to the moon together. So Jeanette, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. I loved everything that you just said.
Awesome. We're already
great start.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually have a wealth management practice. I've been in the business for about 20 years, working with high net worth families, and just really enjoy getting to know people, their families, their situations, making sure that they're making great decisions. Along the way, I got very involved in the gender lens movement, which is why women need to have more money in hand. And as I got involved in why you're making decisions based on, making sure companies are treating women well, how we can put effort into the market by peer pressure and the purchases that we're making and all of these things, I realized some challenging details about women, exactly what you were talking about, how in the past we used to stay at home, we used to compete for men and security and what have you. And even though we're in the workplace, we tend to leave about $1 million on the table through our lifetime through maternity, paternity leave, and taking care of family members, or sitting at home while our husband is doing
networking, schmoozing, making those business contacts after hours.
And I would love to say that, every marriage is going to last forever, but because women have typically allowed the man to take care of the finances, we find that women are 80% more likely to be impoverished in retirement. So we have all these great facts and stats about how we need women in the boardrooms and women in all these places. But before we do all of that, or maybe alongside it, we also need to make sure that we are investing. We understand risk. We're making good decisions. And so I created this kind of platform with my partner called Womenomics in order to not only give women the access to professional money management at a much lower entry point, but also to help them understand the market, to understand the jargon, to understand what risk looks like. When a woman actually is risk aware as opposed to risk adverse, she tends to outperform men by about 40 basis points, which is a little less than 0.5%.
So why is that? I'm going to cut you off. Why is that? Why are women better at taking risk?
So
Is it intuition or what?
it's two things, and there's been all kinds of studies, and there's entire universities that do work on the social impact space around women and money. And one of the things that they found is men have a tendency to make decisions based on the bottom line and the revenue figures and the shareholder, right? So they kind of are making decisions for the next quarter or the next 6 months. When a woman makes a decision, she's typically making a decision much further. She has a longer view, and she's thinking about her community. So it's really interesting because it's a little bit of nature versus nurture. It's a little bit of that primitive caretaking, like let's make sure we're making really good, sound, long decisions, and they're paying off in the market. They're paying off. So it's just when women understand it better. The problem is that we've never taught women about risk. We've never taught women how to invest. We've always talked to women as if they're excessive spenders, and it's created almost a internalized
Anxiety.
shame. Yeah.
Yes, we're taught to save, not to reinvest. And hence why we're having this podcast, because I have so many men colleagues in my life. It's been very challenging being a powerful woman like myself to connect with men. They're, not hating on men. This is just my experience in the past, not so much anymore because I've kind of, disengaged from that and learned to reroute, connect with women and find my own niche. But men love to help other men. It's like this camaraderie thing. It's how they've survived. When you start sharing information with a woman, the power leverage changes. Like a guy doesn't want to share with a woman these secrets unless he's coupled with her.
Yeah.
It's like it's always transactional. Like when I've ever wanted to learn about stock market or investing or whatever, there's always the fucking fine print. Well, I'll share that with you if. It's like, no. I just want to learn. Like, can I just be a guy? Like, I'll put a strap on if it makes me feel like to you that I'm a guy just so you can share wisdom with me. But it doesn't end up happening. So it's
Which part? Never mind. I don't want to know.
No, you know what I mean? Pretending to be just treat me like a guy. Don't treat me like a girl. Like
Right.
just give me. I want to know. I want to
Yeah.
learn, and it's been so hard for me. And there are other platforms that I've looked at, and you just don't know what to trust. You don't know where to go. I've been bamboozled when I've went to different types of investing things. I'm like, this was just a fucking scam.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot.
There's so much. And so women don't have, there hasn't been. I mean, obviously you have a platform that's supportive, but even for women like myself, years ago when I wanted to start investing and going places, it was like I was shooting in the dark. I didn't have like men have their colleagues. They've had to bond together for survival. It's innate in them to share stories and, oh, this stock works or whatever. It's camaraderie. Women haven't had that in the same way. Like you said, we've always competed for men.
Yep.
Women have eaten each other. There's so much of that because they're trying to preserve and protect their man. So, primitively, they can have their hen parties, but they don't trust each other in certain ways. But there's less women that are, talking about these things and that you can trust them and they're not just trying to get business from you. Like I've gone to these women's groups and it's like they're all trying to get you to buy into their business. It's like, this is not how the guys do it.
Yeah.
The guys are free. It's organic. There's not like, hey, come coach with me or come do It's like women have really struggled, and I'm not hating on women either. It's like I just want to know. My women followers, we just want to know what we can do in a safe, reliable way that we're not being sold and we're not being bamboozled.
It's so funny that you mention not being able to trust, because that's been like the number one thing that women have shared back to me as we've built this platform. Because I have all the stats and all the data. I mean, I've been studying this space for way too long. Like, I'm shocked that I know all of the pioneers when this space kind of opened up on the gender lens and socially responsible investing space. And we started building all of these things, but they weren't really coming, or they were just kind of like touching it and walking away, right? And then I have a friend of mine, she's a money coach, and she has an incredible platform where she's helped women really understand their money, kind of their origin story. And all of a sudden these ladies are making way more money. And she called me, she's like, Jeanette, but they're not giving it up. They're not going into the market. They're sitting in savings accounts, like millions of dollars. And that's a stat across the board that there's probably, I can't remember what the most recent stat is, but it was over, several $billion of women's money is in savings. Because we have a tendency to be nervous and not know who to trust. And a lot of times, and I'm not hating my male colleagues, I grew up in the whole boiler room, Wolf of Wall Street type of vibe in the office, right? So I knew how to, like, I was very masculine for a long time, and I knew how to talk the talk. But sometimes those guys don't necessarily know how to talk to a woman in a way that she feels empowered and that she's learning and understanding. So they have a tendency to kind of, hold all of their assets in what they think is the safest place and say, I'll get to it. And then they never get to it. But then we started creating content and spaces and places for them to come to learn. And what the next thing was, I now can trust you. Will you just do it for me? So that's why we created the actual portfolio. We created a portfolio because at that point it was kind of like, okay, now I know what you're doing, and I trust that you're going to make good decisions for me. And I've met everybody, so now I'm going to abdicate that aspect of this to you because you're safer now than my husband or my delay or whatever that might be. So I still think that we have an issue. Like, we want to be educated, but then it's like we don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily feel like we know who to trust. And then when we get past that, we're kind of like, do I want to know all the jargon of Wall Street? Do I want to know? But you've got to think of it from the perspective of your future self. Like, I always tell everyone, like, you've got to, I think Ella calls it like FU money. I say
Yes.
future me money, right? You've got to have enough money that you can leave any relationship at any time. You have the ability to buy your own home, buy your own car, and know that you can retire and be okay. Like, if you know that you're going to be all right in life, you have the responsibility, I think, to yourself and your family to make sure that you've got that education.
I love that. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I want every woman listening. Whenever you find this podcast, today as it airs or like 15 years from now, like, you need to be empowered so you have that independence truly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any woman to ever feel owned or that they can't leave because of the financial. I see that so much. I mean, I was a nurse practitioner for over 12 years, and seeing women, especially in this town in Vegas, so crippled and like literally seeking out someone to depend on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad. So I want women everywhere to be liberated and independent. So tell me a little bit about the different options with Womenomics. Like, if it's, you were talking about a couple different things, like you can work one-on-one with someone, there's investments, and so go into sort of how it's structured.
The way we've set it up, we do have the wealth management arm for clients who have larger net worth and interest in actually active management and one-on-one relationship. For those women who want the education, we've kind of truncated it, right? I've created some really great courses teaching you how to get out of debt, to learn how to save, what emergency savings needs to look like. We have a lot of options for self-learning and then community conversation, right? So where we can come together on a quarterly basis and talk about what's going on in your mind. What's really interesting is it's created a great little community. So when we do have the ladies come together, and like lately we've been able to do it as breakfasts here in town. Hopefully we'll get so global it has to be Zooms.
Nice.
But we have, they get to know each other. And here's the beautiful thing. They start talking about money and start asking for raises because it's the first time they're coming into a space, and we're giving them permission. And then as they're talking to one another and bringing in bank statements and talking about what they have, they're like, oh my gosh, first of all, knowing what you have is so incredibly, it hurts. It's a little bit painful because sometimes you realize that you're overspending in one area or, you're a little bit further behind. But once you actually start to see that net worth number tick up, the women feel empowered and they feel more confident walking into a boss's office and saying, I'd really like a raise, or I need to look for another job. For me to have that future me lifestyle that I want, I need to be on this path. So that's been really incredible. Our preference, of course, is that you want to invest in the platform. So the minimum entry is very, very low so that it's affordable. And it's invested professionally in assets that are, companies you'd recognize.
So let me go back a little bit. So the courses are they're pre-recorded courses, or are they live Zoom, like periodic, or how do they work?
We have pre-recorded courses, coursework, and I've even created, spreadsheets and dashboards and all kinds of things if you're trying to understand, with like videos attached to them. So you have no reason to walk away from it and be like, I don't know what I'm doing? Like, we literally walk you through. I've got over 20 years of experience.
Wow. So the courses, are they like 1 hour? Are they like a series, or how are they broken down?
So the getting out, kind of the money metrics is what I call it, which is kind of getting out of debt, figuring out your savings, where you're kind of heading, how to use credit cards effectively as a tool.
Get out.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone needs this. Like my daughter, she's like 10. I will have her do this. Like, she needs to learn this when she's like 16.
Yeah.
Like, every woman needs to know these basic things.
I mean,
this is great.
If you're going to have savings, you do high yield savings. If you're going to do credit cards, use them because of the points and the perks that they provide you, not because you don't have enough trouble.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's kind of shifting some of those mindsets in the way you look at money.
So is that one course, or how many courses do you offer, and what are the names, if you can?
Sure. We
off.
have two. One is the Money Metrics course. It's a smaller mini course. It will probably take you like a week or two. You can go at your own pace. And there's spreadsheets. I think the thing that takes the longest is for women to actually download their bank statements and put it in the spreadsheets.
Oh.
Because it'll tell you, it's painful, but you have to do this. You have to know where you're spending your money. You have to realize where it's coming and where it's going. And then the Investing 101, it's like a masterclass in markets. I literally break down what's the Dow, what's the NASDAQ, what's the jargon, what is an asset class, what different, what's the quilt chart, what do I need to look at, all the way to researching your own holdings if you want to do it yourself. That's more like a 12-week course, self-paced. But we have, access to the folks if they throw up a flag. I have people text me and send me emails, and once a quarter at the least, we'll get together and do either a Zoom or a breakfast.
That's amazing. So really, I mean, it's brilliant. Women are getting all the education. They're getting the tools to even learn how to invest.
Yeah.
Understand everything from, like, I don't think there's anything out there like this.
I don't think there's anything so I think that there's a ton of money coaches. Some of them I know and love, and they've come from the financial services industries. I think it's rare to find someone like myself and my team, my colleagues, who actually actively managed money and who created something, not because that was our main thing, but it's a side thing that's important to us. It's kind of like our give back to some extent. Like, our main business is separate. But this is what I will say to anyone who's listening. Be conscientious of where you're getting your advice from, because there's a lot of people who've gotten themselves out of holes who want to guide you. And they've done a great job, but that doesn't mean that they've ever had the practical experience or the licensing or any of those things. So I'm just really conscientious. There are a couple platforms, and I love them, but you find out later on, like, they came from marketing backgrounds and they did a really great job, but there's that piece where they can give you an advice and they can take you so far, but at some point you should have some type of professional advice.
Right. Or you have a coach that wants you to be dependent on them because you are their bread and butter.
Right.
And then they're not giving you all of the goods. They're not giving you all the little trade secrets because they want you to be dependent on them.
Yeah. And our whole goal is that you're not dependent on us. Our whole goal is, like, we would love to educate you. We would love for you to invest in the portfolio if you're interested. We'd love for you to do so well you eventually want to become a client on the asset management side.
Because then it feeds you guys. Then you're doing your work. Right. Yeah. I love that. That's so amazing, because you really are giving that added value. You're educating the people so that they can make the money to then they're successful and you're successful. Then you're both winning, instead of it being like this, like many of us have encountered, these coaches that are really just, they need you. Mm-hmm. They need you. They don't want you to go, and they'll just do whatever but withhold the secrets. So you're dependent. I was the same way. I'm the same way in my clinic, with my coaching, with everything that I do, interacting with clients. Like, I don't want you to want me. Like, I'm the only person who coaches mentors who doesn't want you to have, I don't want you to have to call me. Right. Like, I will give you all the knowledge, but it's for you to be empowered to then go take over your life and then share your wisdom with other people.
Well, I think, and that's like the beautiful part of some of the conversations we've had in community, is that we're there to provide education and watch you walk away a little taller, right? And, have a little bit more confidence in the questions you're asking, the decisions you're making. And at the end of the day, there's so much data out there that says that if women are making better financial decisions, the entire community benefits. So we have the stats and the data to tell us that we're doing the right thing for the long term.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I cut you off sort of at the courses, and then there's another tier that you wanted to get into.
Um,
Like there's the one-on-one investing, right? When they have like lots and lots of money, and then is there something in between the coursework and then like
the portfolio?
portfolio?
Apologies.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I threw you off.
No, so the coursework is it's part of the whole thing. The portfolio, it's if you check out womenomics.com or the Instagram Womenomics and WMN, we actually created that so it looked like a ticker symbol. So.
Yeah.
That's why the WMN, because it reminds me of a ticker symbol on like the Dow or the NASDAQ.
You're such a nerd. I love it.
I'm
such a nerd too. I love that.
But I think it's one of those things where, we'd love for them to come in whatever, way that they're interested in. To be honest with you, I have a lot of people reach out who don't get involved with us, but they just have one or two questions. And, it's maybe we're not the right platform for them, but for the very first time, they've heard someone in the field who will give them a little bit of attention, who can answer a question that makes their lives easier. Like I've had women who are just like, I just have 3 questions regarding 401ks. And I've seen a lot of people out there on Instagram who are like, you pay me for my work. Absolutely, everyone should be compensated, but there is something to be said for women who help women. And if you have the capacity to be able to answer a question or to help someone understand, yes, you should invest and match your 401. You're like, if you have a 401k, and just one thing I'll say to any woman who's listening, if you have a 401k, take your company's match. Like absolutely 100%. It's the surefire way to jumpstart your financial future is through your tax advantaged accounts. So that's one thing that I would kind of throw out there as like my little tidbit for the day.
That's amazing. Okay, great. Great little secret. So let's go back to talking about debt. You were saying that you can help women get out of debt. So what are some little strategies, without maybe giving away all, you tell us how much you can give, but that people need to be aware of, maybe some basic strategies, things that they can start doing on their own, and maybe some bigger tidbits.
I think, when it comes to debt, a lot of time there's a lot of shame there. And we have some stories we've told ourselves about how we use credit cards. And first of all, we're never taught how to use credit cards. There was home ec, there was wood shop, there were all of these. No one ever sat down and said, let's talk personal finance.
Don't even get me started about emotional intelligence and financial preparation. Like,
doesn't exist.
Oh my God. Anyways, yes.
Doesn't exist.
Nope.
And it's one of those things where it's like a lot of times you get a card straight out of high school, a credit card, and you do one of two things. Either your parents taught you how to use it effectively, or you totally screw up and you have to pull yourself out of it. The thing is you will get out of it. And that's one thing I think people, they look at credit card debt as kind of like something that will weigh them down. But if you pay attention to what you're spending in your habits and start making some adjustments because you're imagining that better life. I think a lot of times people look at their credit card statements and feel like I'm never going to get out of this. It took you, it might take a minute, but it's making some really effective and smart decisions, right? It's basically sitting down and saying, what exactly am I spending on? How can I move the dial? And then could I put a little bit more and start paying down debt, either avalanche or snowball? I don't know if you've ever heard of either of those expressions.
Heard.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the audience, why don't you go into them a little bit more?
So my preference is that you pay off your higher interest rate credit cards first, because of the fact in the long term that you're going to be spending so much more in interest rate debt. It's compounding interest against you. Compounding interest is a very sexy thing when it's working for you and in your favor, but when it's working against you, not so much.
Very sexy.
It's very sexy. I believe that like dollar cost averaging is very sexy. Like this is like finance nerd stuff. So with paying down the credit card debt, it's one of those things where you have to understand, like if you've got a large bill and it's a large interest rate, it's going to take a while to knock it down, but it's better for you financially. A lot of people say, well, I have one that's only $1,000. It'll make me feel better to get rid of that one first, but it's got like, very low interest rate. If it makes you feel better and it's the cookie that you need, do it. Absolutely. If it's the thing that keeps you going. But you have to know yourself. You have to kind of have that self-discipline to say, I want a better life for myself, so I need to cut this down. The other thing people always ask me is, well, when should I use credit cards? what you should do once you get out of debt or as you're getting out of debt is start creating your emergency savings. So it's several months worth of emergency savings.
So before or during? Like, should you
Depends on your situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's one of those things. It depends on how bad your credit card debt is, and so there's a couple of little things I always suggest. If your credit card debt is so heavy that you're month to month on your bills and you're really struggling, you're going to have to make some tough decisions because it's going to be hard for you to sock away money to emergency savings during that period of time. Once you start feeling a little bit of relief, you can make some adjustments. Like when you start seeing that the larger payments are coming down and you can kind of reallocate and say, okay, I was paying $500 a month towards that bill. That bill is now paid off. So how am I going to reallocate that? You might start putting some money away to savings. The idea is that your emergency savings account is to keep you out of debt, so that if your tire blows or you have some type of, your water heater goes, you need to be able to pay for something you didn't expect. Hopefully you'll take that from your emergency savings, not from a credit card. You'd like to get to a place when you're using credit cards, you're using them as a tool because you want the points for rewards, right? And I always say we never finance shoes or vacations. We only finance things that, make sense to finance certain purchases, like if you're going to buy furnishings for a home or something like that, and the interest rate is reasonable, and you really need it. But the idea, of course, is that you get to a place where you don't need credit cards. They are there for they up your game. Like you get to use the airport lounge. You get to, get free flights. Those are why we use credit cards.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I love that. So what is your perspective? I've heard a lot of people talking about, like, since it's tax season, there's all these things popping up on like their Instagram or whatever, commercials about like debt consolidation. What are your perspectives on debt consolidation?
I don't like debt consolidation. There's too many scammers, like we talked about. There's too many scammers out there who will prey upon people who are struggling and who are looking for the easier way out. And it seems great at the time. I have seen very few that are reputable and reasonable. So I kind of shy away from that. I think the better option is to try to get a balance transfer with a 0% or very low interest rate. Because sometimes if you look on nerdwallet.com is like the Bible for some of us, because like you can find out what different banks are paying, like who has the best high interest rate, high yield interest rate, who has the best, balance transfers right now. And you can find a card that will have like 0% interest for like 18 months. And if you transfer some of your balances, so at the very least, you're dampening your interest expense while you're paying down debt. That's my preference over using debt consolidation. Now, debt consolidation from like, say it's from like a bank where they've provided you like a home equity line of credit and you're using it for debt consolidation, that doesn't hurt because it's simple interest. And that's not painful. But these guys who are calling you or sending you stuff in the mail, I don't like them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was one of the questions that I was supposed to ask today. So yeah, I don't know anything about that. So that's very cool. I learned something. Okay, so now let's talk about the good stuff, like the investing. This is where I'm like super interested too. So if someone, I know, say they didn't want to do your courses right away, they just were like, what can I do to invest? What are some key language that I need to know? What are some things I can start looking at or being aware of to start getting familiar with investing? Or a piece of advice. If you have $1,000, what would you suggest them to do with that money if they can invest it?
So the first thing I would say is like the investing 101, and we have all the jargon, all the education.
Okay.
I believe whether or not you decide to do it yourself, you should take that course.
Okay.
Because I think it's just your baseline knowledge of, okay, now I understand what the industry looks like. I understand what they're saying when they're talking. Like it's everything that a woman was never taught, because most articles written about money for men tell them to invest, to dream, and to be like venture capitalists. Like it's very
gosh.
Hey guys, 67% of articles written for women tell them that they need to stop overspending. We have been conditioned to believe that we are bad with money. So I think that that's your baseline. If you have the ability to invest, the first thing that I would tell you to do is to make sure your tax advantaged accounts are maxed out first. So that's your 401k, your IRAs. So if you don't have a 401k option, you can open an IRA and you have earned income. That's where I would start because you have the best tax considerations. And anytime you can take care of like company matches on a 401k, that's free money and it's compounding over time.
Okay, great. That's awesome. I love it. Now, beyond that,
Mhm.
when we're getting to what next, you'd say stocks,
Oh, well, yeah,
or,
for sure.
or what would be the next level after that, optimizing that?
Well, it's understanding your risk profile, right? So I think once you open an IRA, you open a 401k, and you're going to invest, right? I get frustrated when I see a lot of these people out there like, just invest in this index, just invest in this ETF, and you'll be fine. You don't have to look at it. It's a very passive and easy and inexpensive way to invest. But if you're looking at wealth building, you're going to want to diversify across asset classes and industries, which doesn't necessarily happen in one ETF or two ETFs, right? So I think it's kind of that education. Your 401k provider or whoever you have your IRA with, a lot of times they will allow you to answer a robo-advisor-esque questionnaire. So you answer a bunch of questions and you're like, this is how I would handle it if I lost all my money. This is how much time I have before I have to take any of this money out. This is how old I am. This is my, and they'll give you a risk profile. And then the AI will determine a healthy portfolio for you, which should be a healthy balance of stocks, bonds, and potentially other assets, right? It's if you're typically a new investor, you're not really investing in like minerals and gold and things like that, but you have ETFs that kind of cover all bases. That's a great way to start because the algorithms are there for you. It does it for you. It's looking at all of the considerations of your profile and it's spitting out what that institution thinks is healthy for you. And that's going to change over time. As you get older, you're going to become more conservative. And that's when you would kind of change the risk profile and it would kind of adjust as you update it. But hopefully in your 20s and 30s, you're just like, you're a little bit more aggressive because you have a longer time horizon. You have more time to allow the market to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, that's great. So you said that you've worked with a lot of women at different circumstances, I'm certain different ages.
Sure.
Like someone probably even in their 50s, a woman who maybe got divorced, she got screwed in her divorce, and she's left with pretty much nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? What what is her potential for being able to like actually retire and be comfortable if she literally is starting from scratch at her age?
So that's really tough. I think when you ask the question, is it feasible for her to retire? I don't know. It depends on the woman, right? And I think that that's a really hard place to be when you're having to go back to work and you're older. And I have seen it. What I've typically seen is I've been involved before the divorce is finalized, and so there's an education and more understanding of what you can ask for and what's available. I think one of the things that becomes a concern is educating women about their budget. Because a lot of times, if they've gone through a divorce and the husband's been involved with the money, they don't even know how much they can live off of, right? So it's spending time educating them on like, here's what your life expenses now look like. Here's what you're going to have to do. I think it would be difficult to say that a woman could easily retire if she was screwed. I think she might be working for a long time. That's why there's that stat that so many women are impoverished in retirement. But I think it's so dependent on each individual.
It's not even impoverished. They just can't retire.
They can't.
Basically.
Yeah, and I mean every family and every situation is different. I have helped women who've gone through divorce who, you know, we're spending time just educating before we can even ask for what the settlement looks like. You know, like we have to understand what your life's going to look like now. And then there's some women who didn't have financial advice or advisors, and they're working and doing things that they didn't want to do. It makes me really sad because I feel like money is such a it's I've always said money creates such complexity. Like so many people are like, I wish I had money, and I've known people who have none, and I've known people who have a lot. And what I will say is, money creates options. You have a lot more options when you have money, but you also have a lot more complication. And you learn family dynamics that are uncomfortable, and sometimes families turn into businesses. So it's really about making sure everyone understands the power of the money within their relationship to themselves and what it is they need to make sure that they're okay.
Wow, that's great. What I can't get out of my mind is how important it is for everyone to have access to or speak with or bring on board a financial advisor when they're going through a divorce. I didn't even think about that when I went
Yeah.
through mine. Although it was fine. Like the asset division was very fine and everything through my divorce, but for people that are maybe, and I was much more wise and, making money. But there's a lot of women I'm sure out there that wouldn't even know. Like you really need
Mm.
to connect with divorce attorneys in town. like give everyone my card
Right.
because I mean divorce attorneys, they don't fucking care. They're just like, I want to make my money and do whatever they, you know, maybe they don't want you. Maybe they don't want you on board because
Well,
they want to soak them for everything they
no, what I
no.
will say is that when like I have worked with some divorce attorneys primarily because the client brought me on prior to, but the divorce attorneys have loved me because I'm not taking anything from them. I'm probably making their job a little bit more palatable because of the fact that when they're having meetings, they're productive.
They're
And
not emotional. They're realistic. They
they're
know what they
realistic.
can get and they're talking about the facts probably, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes one of the things I'll say, especially in high net worth divorce cases and ultra high net worth divorce cases, the assets are typically very complicated, and it's not an easy like, okay, you get 50 and you get 50, and sometimes having to go in and explain that to someone, it's I think so far the ones I've worked with have been like, thank God you're here. So
Yeah.
it's been a positive thing.
Absolutely. That's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm like, for people that don't know what the future could look like, they
Yeah.
could be making decisions that are very, very detrimental or don't even know that there's an avenue
Yeah.
that they could be, or even know that their spouse has some access or whatever. I mean,
Well, I think a lot of
absolutely.
times it's kind of just saying like, here are your options, and here are the facts, and I think that money is it's facts, and when you can translate it in a way that people understand,
Right.
it's easier for them to make decisions.
Yeah. That's amazing. God, I love this so much. Now, what I'm fascinated about you, we're going to turn to you personally. So,
Sure.
not only is she so brilliant in what she does with her work, she's also entrepreneurial herself. And this is what I really appreciate about her is that we actually first connected on social media because I work in, I'm still doing my medical stuff on the side. With skincare and aesthetics and that sort of thing. So we discussed the skincare
Mm-hmm.
and the private labeling and all that kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. And then when I put my post out, like looking for some guests or whatever, she popped up again. I was like, okay, who is this chick? Like, I love it. She's diversified her income. I like this woman. Like, she's a financial advisor, a wealth advisor, and she's got her own like. I'm calling it a side hustle. She can fill me in, but
Yeah.
I love this that she's walking the walk. Like you're taking your own advice. She's got her own investment. She's following what she's giving her clients, but then she also has her other sources of revenue too that she's banking off of that are her passion. Like skincare is her passion. So
Mm-hmm.
you're all set in your financial game. You're helping other women do what you do through all of your knowledge and expertise and training. And you're also making money on the side or however you call it through your passion.
Yeah.
So tell us, she's so cool. So we're all going to learn from her. So tell me about how the skincare got involved and sort of what you've done to kind of create this revenue source.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I tend to be very entrepreneurial minded. I've always been left and right brained, very creative but very logical, and I tend to notice little blips in kind of markets. And I've actually given people ideas before. I'm just like, hey, I have this idea for this. I don't have time to do it. You should run with it. And I've seen a couple of businesses take off that way. God bless them. But for me, it was kind of funny because I see an esthetician every month. I've invested in very high-end med-grade skincare, and it keeps getting more and more and more expensive. And it's funny because I am looking at people who have skin insecurities. I'm aging. I'm getting older. We all are. So I have skin insecurities, right? And there's little things and potions and creams that I've been paying for like 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden they've almost like doubled in price. And then I'm watching my boyfriend's daughter and my daughters start to go through puberty, and they're having issues with acne. And the doctors are like, here's a pill, and not really saying, okay, let's also do some really great skincare. And so it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm going to do some research because first and foremost, I cannot imagine paying another $200 for a 1 ounce of this incredible, like I love this serum, but there's got to be something out there, right? And then with my boyfriend's daughter, watching how it was affecting her emotionally. So I started talking to my esthetician about it, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's such a pain with some of these big names. They're so expensive, the clients don't really want to buy them. And then when they do buy them, I have to do a minimum order, and then everything's always on back order. Because I would order stuff from her, and I wouldn't get it for like 3 weeks. And I would be like, hey, I really need that serum. So I'm like, no. And even if it doesn't, like, it's just this boutique-y fun thing that I get to do, like, it's for me and my family. But she started using it, and I asked her, I did a lot of research. I checked out a bunch of different places. I visited a bunch of different labs. And I found an incredible manufacturer that I was really interested in. And so they loaded me up and said, try it, take it to the med spa. So they started using it. We started using it. I had a couple of people in the derm field use it. And they're like, we really like it. It's high quality stuff. Some of it's mixed with botanicals. It's also at price points that make sense for people who want really high quality skincare. And the thing that I loved is my boyfriend's daughter started using it, went on a really strong regimen. She was able to come off the pill that she was taking in order to clear up her skin. So
that says a lot.
I love
because, especially with the young kids, obviously it's hormonal. They want to throw them on birth control pills or spironolactone or whatever to, the anti-androgen sort of binding. And so for the skincare to actually be able to manage that at a superficial level of a dysfunction that may be happening inside is says a lot. That's very powerful.
Yeah, I had one derm actually reach out and say, I've been using this now for 6 weeks and I was using really expensive stuff and I can't see a difference, which means you've got some good stuff. I was like, amazing.
And this is really cool. So she bring me a little gifts today about, the skincare here. And it's great because I use a particular line of, again, medical grade. And it's super uber expensive. It's a great product. It lasts, a good amount of time. But 2 of the products I absolutely love. The rest of them, I'm like, this is marginal. Of course, I don't pay for it. I get the free samples for the whatever. But I don't peddle this stuff to my clients unless it works. Unless I can 100% stand by it. Otherwise, I'm just like, get whatever, cream-based, whatever. I like over-the-counter stuff.
Yeah.
So I literally am running out of my skincare.
Oh, good.
My moisturizer, and I'm almost out of my eye cream. So I'm going to open up my package right here, see what's inside. I'm sure there's a basic everyday cleanser. Oh my God, if I can open this up. Oh, cool. I love this. Oh my God. The whole thing. I don't even have to go shopping. I think I'm going to get hooked to this. So this is really beautiful.
Thank you.
Love this. Correction pads. Oh, so they're like peel pads.
Yeah.
I love the peel pads.
Yeah.
Enzyme face polish. So that is a exfoliator.
Yeah.
Exfoliator.
Fruit enzymes with
Moisturizer.
CBD. I actually gave you the products that are the most potent and popular. So hoping that you would love them. The med spa that I'm working with now, they use the enzyme peel in their facials. Because it works super well. It's like the skin just kind of like sloughs off immediately. But the correction pads are incredible for the acne line. And I also have a hyaluronic acid with colloidal silver. I did not include that, but you break the colloidal silver beads, and it's with that and the correction pads, that's one of the things that helped my boyfriend's daughter.
So the correction pads, I'm trying to see what is in this. Glycolic acid, lactic acid, salicylic acid. Oh my God.
It's 6 different
it does not have
hydroxy and beta.
It doesn't have TC, but that's very caustic. So that's actually great. Wow, I'm super looking forward to this. I love peel pads. So this was not supposed to be a promotional thing about the skincare line. We were just talking about how she's a badass and she, has diversified income. But I'm kind of like becoming obsessed about this. But no, this is really cool. So tell me more about the business side of it. So this is your passion. You took it on for yourself, but you have a med spa that's using it. This, and I asked you before, I'm like, this isn't like an MLM thing. This was you discovered this. This is your
brand.
Brand.
Yeah. No, this is one of the things that I'm passionate about it. I've learned a lot over the years as just the little interests that I've had here and there. And so I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. I know the med spa loves it. I know it's a product that works. It is a very competitive environment. So doing ads online it's expensive, it's painful. But I'm like, if I can bring together a few med spas who love it and we just kind of like, secret sauce allow it to spread, that would be incredible.
Sorry, go ahead.
But CAMA, actually, I wanted to mention what CAMA stands for. So it's really hard to find names of companies or LLCs that have not been taken before. So like I was online just Googling everything I could find that would be like a strong woman, and I found Kama. She was a Galatian goddess or priestess who is mentioned in the book On the Bravery of Women. She was a very loyal warrior, strong feminine woman, and she was only mentioned like once in history, but it was like such a passionate story. So I was like, I can't find anything else called Kama, so this is what we're running with. My whole thing is like, I would love for the people around me to be skin confident and be able to afford that type of med grade.
It's so funny because this is how the universe works, and I freaking love it. Not only am I running out of my skincare, I literally said, because I have this amazing boyfriend, absolutely adore him. He's like going to be my forever boyfriend. I love him. But I sleep on him like a pillow. He's like my little fuzzy pillow. And I started having breakouts because of the oil. But I can't not snuggle with him every night, like lay on him. And so I'm having to wear more makeup, which I don't like to wear. And so one of the things I claimed in the universe yesterday is I want to get back to that point where I don't have to wear makeup. I can just wear my sunscreen and walk out. Yeah. That I want for myself and every other woman. I hate the cakey look. I don't like makeup. I now have to wear, we called it a face condom. When I lay on him, I have to have a face condom. I put a little sheet between my skin, which I don't like because I'm like a baby. I'm like a needy baby at night. I'm like, I need to have skin-to-skin contact, but it's not good for my skin. Mm-mm. So my esthetician said, well, you can still sleep on him, but just put Aquaphor on my face. But I don't want to have to do that either. So we're using my sheet as a face condom so I don't have breakouts. But I want to be able to develop a regimen. Mm-hmm. And so this is a beautiful connection here because one of the things I said with the brand that I'm building, right? So it's a personal development brand where I'm bringing in the quantum understanding of who we are as energy beings. This is not even spirituality. This is about consciousness. We are consciousness living a human experience in these bodies, which we have to master and support. And we don't have to age the way Western medicine believes that, or telling us that we have to. And learning how to harness the power of our mind through the remap process that I created, we can really make fast, quick, practical change in our life, transformation to reach our goals. So part of this brand that I'm wanted to incorporate, and I said this many, many years ago, I wanted to have a supplement brand of my own because it's really important to have the proper nutrients. Whether you're carnivore like me or keto, or you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're not getting enough of the nutrients. Just we don't. Right. We don't. I mean, unless you're hyper obsessive and you're eating exactly a fully balanced meal, even carnivore, you can achieve perfect balance. I'm not eating seafood. I want to vomit looking at an oyster. I don't want to eat lamb chops or pig brains. I don't want to do it. I'm going to have it in a capsule form, or I want to take it as a supplement. Fruits and vegetables, we're so stripped from the there's no minerals in the soil anymore anyway. So supplements and skincare line were two things that I said many, many years ago I want to give to people because the aesthetic beauty is important. I don't care who you are. You are in a body. We love beauty. We want to be youthful. It's in our primal brain to enjoy youth, to want to be like, we're not attracted to old wrinkly people. We just aren't. It's not a judgment or a bad thing. It just, so skincare, having beautiful, youthful looking skin, that's why I still do aesthetics because it's important for self-confidence, for our own desire. For if you look in the mirror, you see someone old, you're going to feel old. You can look old and feel young, but those people who feel young on the inside, they also look younger. That's the power of the mind and our emotions. But we can biohack our way through a really great skincare regimen and taking care of ourselves through lasers and different things. So this is an amazing business opportunity for me because as I diversify and utilize and build my brand, the skincare is something that I've been wanting to bring on board.
I love it.
And a supplement. So any of you out there that have a supplement line, manufacturers that have a legit supplement concoction you want to throw my way, but I'm very, very particular. I will not peddle anything that is not me approved. Like I've done the MLM stuff. I've tried some of the MLM programs and I'm like, yeah, I did it for a bit just to see, not because I was really too interested in the money making. I was fascinated about the business models. I played with it to study and understand it. And then I was like, yeah, but the products, marginal, some of them, and I'm not a salesperson. Like if you want to buy it, but I'm totally transparent that, yeah, it's an MLM thing. You have to subscribe, whatever, but take it or leave it. I use these products or I don't. But I really want to align with something that is me-based. It's really about me. That's not like you have to jump through all these hoops and figure out all the paradigms. Like it's a great model, I think, for some people.
I think it's worth studying. Absolutely.
I'm always open to finding new ways of creating whatever. Like even if I have to get my hands dirty and experiment, it's like, oh, I don't do MLM because no, I hear it's kind of weird or whatever, but I want to learn it and see it. And if there's no skin off my back, which there never is, I always end up ahead in the end. I'm willing to try it. But these different models, I want one that resonates. I'm like old school.
Yeah.
I'm my brand. Everyone should be their brand and want to, build their own.
You sound it's very similar to me in that like you tinker. You're willing to try things. That's how I knew how to build a brand so quickly and so fast. Like I did it quick because I've tinkered with other things, not because I was, necessarily like, this is it, but because I'm like, I need to learn this,
Right.
There's been so many different products that I've checked into, I've researched, but I understand exactly what you mean. I think it's fascinating when people learn how to scale a business. What I'm finding is the competitive landscape has made it a lot harder than it ever has been before, in the sense that ads have become a lot more expensive. Influencer, people are paying for it's becoming saturated. So I'm kind of like going back to that old school, like, this is mine. I use it every single day. And my kids use it, and people around me. And if you can kind of influence people through kind of organic marketing, I think that that's the way to go, because now everyone kind of is like the sniff test. Like who do I trust? Is this MLM? Is this going to go away tomorrow? Is it like that's all we.
Right. And I love that so much. I'm so glad that you said that, because you and I align so much on like everything that you're saying. I'm totally into and I agree with, and the investment and the education and like the skincare. I love it. And that's how it is for me. Like I've done different modalities. I've tinkered like with all the different ways. I'm using that word, doing the Facebook ads and doing this and selling a product and selling a service. And it's like every time I'm just me. I'm talking, sharing about what I'm doing, my carnivore, my tango, my podcast, my this, my that, my life hack, whatever. That's when shit happens. That's the magic. Yeah. I want what you have. You inspired me. I want what you have. It's not about selling or a service. I'm not even trying. I'm literally just being a freaking super nerd, inspired, passionately, innocently, just going, oh my God, this is what I did. Or if someone asks me and then I get in like that state where I'm like, la, and people are like, oh my God, whatever you're doing, I want that. I want to feel like that. I want to look like that. I want to have that experience. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And absolutely. I want to be able to give them something that is mine, that's genuine, that I genuinely use, and that's also affordable. Because like the other skincare regimen, I get the free shit. I would never pay
right.
for that stuff.
Right.
So I could ask my people, be like, yeah, but I wouldn't probably use it if I had to pay for it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get sticker shock with some of the larger. It's I don't know. It's consumerism and capitalism, and they're all beautiful and make the world go round and make the portfolios go up. But at the end of the day, you're creating a situation where people don't have access anymore. And that's what both platforms are, Womenomics and this. They're both platforms to allow people access to things they should get access to have a good life.
Right. And I'm the same way with advice. I'll have clients, or not clients, just friends or just people randomly text me on one of my social media platforms, have just had a question. Like someone in my tango community from across the world was asking me, oh my God, I saw that, post you did about the laser treatment you did on yourself. What is that? What is it? What is the breakdown so that I can get it done in my country? I could have been like, fuck you. You come and do it here. Like, you're here every other month. Like, I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Yeah.
No, this is what it is. This is what you look for, or something similar to that. Like, be my guest. But that's how it's about educating people. If someone really wants your service or wants to be like you, they will come to you. I don't agree with you have to pay me if you want to hear what I have to say.
Right.
It's just people don't appreciate that. When you give a little bit, they remember. And then you create your following. You create your loyal people. And there will be a time, not always, but there will be a time when those people will need you.
Yeah.
Or they'll know someone who needs your service and they'll be like, I've seen this girl for years and she gave me free advice and she was so authentic when I said I wanted to get some Botox or I wanted to do this, but it was too expensive or I was going through and she gave me a little bit of advice. She was so kind. You need to see her.
Yeah. That's exactly. It's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about that. I had 2 opportunities to be very nice to people today in situations where I didn't have to be nice, where I was inconvenienced, but I didn't have anywhere to be. And I was like, I feel sometimes if we just bless someone's day a little bit, both of them were taken aback by it, And I think even in the communication, I think of this is an interesting thing. Like you talk about how men and women are different. There is this competitive landscape. Women, we want to support each other, but we also are kind of competing too for space and airtime and money because we've been taught to compete with each other, which is so inside of us and messy. But what's really interesting, when I started building companies, do you know who helped me more than anyone and didn't ask me for anything? Men. I had so many men who I'd be even like, hey, I can't really pay you right now if you want to be on the board, we'll offer you shares in the future or something like that. And they're like, Jeanette, this is my pay it forward. If I can help you, I want to help you. And I'm like, man, if we could just all do that to and for each other, right? With that mutual respect where I can learn from you and I can pay it forward. I think it's just a really beautiful space. I think women, unfortunately, I love women. I've studied women. I've studied gender lens. I've got a company called Womenomics. But I think that we have some internalized shame and competitive stuff that we don't even know is there. That's, like you mentioned, the word primal is so primal that until we kind of turn and look at it, we're going to be fighting these little internalized battles, So I love the overarching message, just kind of helping people be better.
Yeah, and it's the tide is turning. More and more women are looking at themselves because of the turmoil and like the pandemic screwed people over, and women are just waking up. There's just like this the civilization of humanity. We're just going through a big evolution where women are like, they can't not look at this anymore. And so when they're seeing they need to find their independence, they're not happy in the circumstances, they're realizing, oh shit, for me to be independent, this is what it looks like. And the women that are independent, they don't tolerate bullshit. Like, you have to work together. There's none of this hold back. So it's starting to change, or at least in my reality, because I've stepped into that reality. I met you. I have so many other women that it's all about building each other up. There's not this competitive thing. We want to be able to work and support each other together. So, women like you that have a platform to educate. So thank you so much for doing your work and giving women an opportunity to make the choice, because there was no choice before. We didn't have a choice but to be products of the lack of information. We only knew what we knew. So I really honor you and I respect you, and I'm so, so thankful, because I'm taking those courses. Everybody, I'll be there and I'll let you know when we do this whole wrap up. I'll tell you all the goods that and the application of everything that I've learned through all my guests on the show. But this is really amazing. I thank you so much for being you, so much for sharing your wisdom and all the greatness that you're going to do in the future too.
I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on. This was a great conversation. I love your spirit.
Thank you. All right, guys. Until next time.